Welcome to Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglikmot. Here are the stories from around the globe. UN warns South Sudan is on the brink of genocide. Afghan president attends Heart of Asia meeting in India. Italy's recent earthquake survivors say referendum is not their priority. In the United States, President Obama urges Senate to pass the 21st Century Cures Health Bill. U.S. military veterans backing North Dakota pipeline protests. Vice President Biden expresses U.S. condolences over Brazilian plane crash that killed 71 people. Another filmmaker receives a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. We will know who shortly. Now for the details. Ethnic cleansing is taking place in some areas of South Sudan, and the stage is set for a repeat of the Rwandan genocide, the head of the United Nations Commission on Human Rights in South Sudan said on Friday at the end of a 10-day visit. According to the Commission, more than 1.1 million South Sudanese have fled the country and 1.8 million have been uprooted, most recently in the Equatoria, or the southern South Sudan regions, where houses are being torched and people being displaced based on ethnicity.
Displacement along tribal lines is being orchestrated through killing, rape, looting, and burning of homes.
The three-person UN Commission was set up in March this year to monitor and report on the situation of human rights in South Sudan and make recommendations for its improvement. According to Suka, the level of sexual violence has reached epic proportions, and both government and rebel forces have committed serious abuse to women.
The scale of gang rape of civilian women, as well as the horrendous nature of the rapes by armed men belonging to all groups, is utterly repugnant. And what is worse is that there is no sense of outrage about this horror.
UN Commission also paid attention to the urgent need of courts to prosecute human rights abuses. It said large parts of the country literally had no functioning courts, and even the traditional reconciliation methods were breaking down.
Now you have a number of instruments both at the African Union, at the regional level, as well at the international level, which deals with conflict-related sexual violence. And so we think that it's really imperative for all of these different people who in fact have the mandate to do so, that we should get them together to talk about what kind of emergency action can be taken.
South Sudan has spent most of its short history mired in civil war. It became independent in 2011, but rivalry between the president and his deputy erupted into war in 2013. They signed a shaky peace deal last year, but fighting and attacks on civilians continue. More than 1 million people have fled South Sudan since the conflict erupted, the largest mass exodus of any conflict in Central Africa since the 1994 Rwandan genocide. Over 4,000 a day have been crossing into Uganda since August now, hosting 188,000, while another 36,600 refugees have reached Ethiopia since early September, and over 57,000 fled to Congo this year. Afghanistan President Ashraf Ghani arrived in India's northern Amritsar city on Saturday to attend the two-day Heart of Asia conference. Heart of Asia is a platform for regional cooperation by placing Afghanistan at its center. Afghanistan is the permanent chair of the Heart of Asia, or HOA, reference, while India is its co-chair this year, being the host. Ghani is scheduled to hold bilateral talks with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi ahead of Sunday's ministerial conference. India and Afghanistan are likely to announce an air cargo service to help increase trade that both say is stymied because of their tense political relations with Pakistan that lies between them. Nuclear-armed India and Pakistan have gone to war 3 times and remain bitter foes, while ties between Pakistan and Afghanistan have become strained despite their shared religious and cultural identities. Officials say the focus of the air cargo service is to improve landlocked Afghanistan's connectivity to key markets abroad and boost the growth prospects of its fruit and carpet industries while it battles a deadly Taliban insurgency. Afghanistan depends on the Pakistani port of Karachi for its foreign trade. It is allowed to send a limited amount of goods overland through Pakistan into India, but imports from India are not allowed along this route. Over 30 countries, including China, United States, Russia, Iran, and Pakistan, will participate in the conference to discuss peace, cooperation, and economic development in Afghanistan. Eliminating militancy in South Asia, and improving connectivity in Afghanistan are likely to dominate the discussions at the Sunday meeting. The conference will seek ways to help improve security and bring peace to Afghanistan, which has been mired in conflict since a U.S.-led coalition toppled the hardline Islamist Taliban government in 2001.
Survivors of Italy's recent earthquakes said on Saturday that the referendum on constitutional reform is not a priority for them, although some fear that the rebuilding of their communities will be delayed if the no vote wins.
Italians will begin voting on Sunday in the referendum which will decide the political future of Prime Minister Matteo Renzi. Renzi had promised to rebuild the quake-hit areas where close to 300 people died, but as winter sets in, there is still a huge amount to be done. Many residents of Amatrice, one of the towns worst hit by the string of earthquakes and aftershocks that shook central Italy between August and November, have been left homeless. Barman Fabio Magnifici said he believed there was a climate of fear in the town.
You can see that the referendum is causing fear among the voters here, because between the yes and the no, from what I've heard, they're scared that something will happen to the government, that the result will cause a government crisis, and if there is a government crisis, maybe they will appoint a technical government, which will slow down all the rebuilding here. No one here wants this government to have a crisis or any problems like that.
Renzi has said he will resign if Italians reject his plan to drastically reduce the role of the upper house Senate and claw back powers from regional authorities. The opposition says the reform will reduce vital democratic checks and balances. Nonina Colore said that although everyone was discussing the referendum, it wasn't a priority for those living in the quake zones.
I think the referendum is discussed in every household in the country. Everyone is talking about the referendum, here included, but it takes second place here at the moment. This is a feeling I get from the people around here. The survivors of the earthquake, they are still very shaken. So because of this, politics doesn't really appear on today's menu for them.
Another local resident, Roberto Serafini, said he felt unable to go to vote as he hadn't been able to research the issues enough to come to a decision, although he did not say that others in the town would vote on the advice of friends or relatives.
Unfortunately, the slowness of the bureaucracy and immediate response to this emergency, let's say it has left us cut off. We've got other problems to deal with. Certainly for me, I haven't been able to study the arguments of the two camps properly, so I probably won't go and vote.
Nadia Rendina was able to collect her electoral voting cards as well as other important documents when accompanied back to her house to retrieve some belongings, but she also said voting was not a priority.
We've got other problems to solve here, so this thing, it's not our priority. Yes, I'll go and vote, but I don't feel it's really as important as I see it being portrayed on TV.
Polls will open at 7 a.m. local time on Sunday with some 52 million Italians eligible to vote and will close at 11 p.m. local time.
The coffins of 50 victims of the tragic plane crash
that wiped out Brazil's Chapecoense soccer team were taken to the team's Arena Conda on Saturday. A stadium full of Chapecoense supporters and mourners cheered as the coffins of the team were carried into the stadium under heavy rain for a wake for members of the team, which ascended from minor leagues in recent years to reach the championship of a South American tournament. Brazilian President Michel Temer had earlier bestowed honors on the victims as they arrived to the city of Chapecó after an overnight flight from Colombia where their plane went down, killing 71 people on board. Monday's disaster shocked soccer fans the world over and plunged Brazil, South America's biggest nation, into mourning. The BAE-146 regional airliner, operated by Bolivian charter company La Mia, had radioed that it was running out of fuel before smashing into a hillside outside the Colombian city of Medellin. Only 6 people survived, including just 3 members of the soccer side, Chapecoense, en route to the Copa Sudamericana final, the biggest game in its history. Fans said the wake would provide closure for a town whose excitement at Wednesday night's Cup final had turned into anguish. Coming up, President Obama urges Senate to pass the 21st Century Cures Health Bill. U.S. military veterans backing North Dakota pipeline protests. Vice President Biden expresses U.S. condolences over Brazilian plane crash that killed 71 people. Plus, another filmmaker receives a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. We will know who shortly. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. We'll be right back. You're still watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Here are the stories from this side of the globe. U.S. President Barack Obama called on Senate to pass 21st Century Cures Health Bill in his weekly address on Saturday. EBC's Sarah Nachman has the details.
The U.S. House of Representatives passed the 21st Century Cures Act with overwhelming bipartisan votes, and President Barack Obama is urging the Senate to do the same when they vote this coming week.
This week, the House passed it overwhelmingly and in bipartisan fashion. The Senate will vote in the next few days, and I hope they'll do the same. I'll sign it as soon as it reaches my desk, because like a lot of you, I've lost people that I love deeply to cancer. I hear every day from Americans whose loved ones are suffering from addiction and other debilitating diseases. And I believe we should seize every chance we have to find cures as soon as possible.
The 21st Century Cures Act is worth $6.3 billion and had widespread bipartisan support, including the backing of the Obama administration. Supporters of the bill say it will spur medical innovation, speed access to new drugs, expand access to mental health treatment, and battle the opioid epidemic. But critics, on the other hand, said it gives massive handouts to the pharmaceutical industry while making cuts to the public health programs and Medicare. The act, sponsored by Republican Representative Fred Upton from Michigan, provides $4.8 billion to the National Institute of Health and $500 million to the Food and Drug Administration to streamline the clinical trial process and hire new staff. It provides $1 billion over 2 years to battle opioid and heroin abuse, includes $1.8 billion to support Vice President Joseph Biden's Cancer Moonshot Initiative, designed to speed research into new cancer therapies. Reporting for Eagle News, I am Sarah Nachman, and I am 1 with 25.
The U.S. expressed its condolences on Friday to the families of victims killed when a plane flying Brazil's Chapecoense soccer team crashed into a Colombian mountain. EBC's Ace Ramirez has the story.
The U.S. expressed its condolences on Friday, December 2nd, to the families of victims killed when a plane flying Brazil's Chapecoense soccer team crashed into a Colombian mountain.
I'd be remiss if I didn't take a second to express my deepest condolences to the families of all those who died in that terrible plane crash earlier this week. Our heart goes out to the people of Brazil and all of those family members. And I think it should be noted that everyone here in Colombia, all the doctors, the first responders, local citizens who helped rescue the few that can be rescued, deserve to be recognized.
Biden also congratulated the South American nation and Colombian President Juan Manuel Santos, winner of this year's Nobel Peace Prize, on reaching a peace deal with the leftist Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia rebels, ending the region's longest-running conflict.
It's been a long time in coming. There have been plenty of setbacks along the way, but you never took your eye off the primary goal. And I have enormous respect for the work of you and your predecessors and the Colombian Armed Forces and the people of Colombia, all the effort they put together to bring this day about. But as I told you last night, Mr. President, the Nobel Committee made the right choice in awarding you the prize.
The accord, approved by both the Senate and the lower house this week, gives necessary legislative approval to the deal to end 52 years of war in which more than 220,000 people have been killed and millions displaced. It still needs to be approved by the Constitutional Court. The agreement to end Latin America's longest insurgency was put together in just over a month after the original pact was narrowly defeated in a referendum on October 2nd. The accord's ratification and signing by Santos and rebel leader Rodrigo Londono begins a 6-month countdown for the 7,000-strong FARC, which started as a rebellion fighting rural poverty to abandon weapons and form a political party. Santos said the peace deal would usher in a new era for his nation. The government is hoping its ruling party Congress will speed the passage of laws and reforms necessary to carry out the peace deal. The amnesty law, which would protect rebels not involved in war crimes or human rights violations from prosecution, would be the first to go to lawmakers. Some 7,000 fighters are set to lay down their weapons under the deal. Other laws would include rural reform, victims' compensation, removal of landmines, and the United Nations-monitored ceasefire, all agreed to in the peace deal. The FARC, which started as a rebellion fighting rural poverty, would be allowed to form a political party. Though Colombians want an end to bloodshed, many in the largely conservative country of 49 million are wary of forgiving the FARC for decades of bombings, kidnappings, and displacements. Reporting for Eagle News, I am Ace Ramirez, and I am one with 25.
Thank you, Ace Ramirez. Up next, another filmmaker receives a star on Hollywood's Walk of Fame. The reveal in a short while. Eagle News, Washington, D.C. will be right back. You are still watching Eagle News, Washington, D.C. Hollywood's Walk of Fame is the world's most famous sidewalk. It honors celebrities from across the globe with their names engraved on the stars in the sidewalk. Recently, another Hollywood celebrity was given a Walk of Fame star. EBC's Eva Baselyaje for the reveal.
I am beside the 2,595th star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, given to film director and television producer Lee Daniels on Friday. Among Daniels' career highlights are a Best Director Oscar nomination for Precious and the co-creation of the hit hip-hop drama Empire. Gabourey Sidibe, who Daniels directed to a Best Supporting Actress Oscar in the 2009 film drama Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire, was among those joining Daniels at the Hollywood Boulevard ceremony. Also on hand were Queen Latifah, who appears in Daniels' upcoming TV series Star, and actor Jussie Smollett, who stars in Empire. Daniels dedicated the honor to his mother, who was also on hand for the event. Daniels, 56, was born in Philadelphia. Prior to entering the entertainment industry, he ran a nursing agency. Daniels later founded a production company, Lee Daniels Entertainment, which made its feature film debut with the 2001 release, Monsters Ball, which led to Halle Berry receiving a Best Actress Oscar for her starring role. Daniels made his directing debut in the 2005 crime thriller Shadowboxer, starring Cuba Gooding Jr. and Helen Mirren. Daniels received a Best Director Oscar nomination in 2010 for Precious, based on the novel Push by Sapphire. He also wrote, directed, and produced a 2012 film drama, The Paperboy. Daniels' last film, Lee Daniels, The Butler, starred Forrest Whitaker as a black butler who served at the White House from 1957 to 1986. The ceremony comes less than 2 weeks before the premiere of the latest series Daniels co-created, Star, which is about 3 young women in a musical group in Atlanta. Reporting for Eagle News, I am Eva Basayahe, and I am 1 with 25.
Thank you, Eva Basilyahe. That is today's Eagle News, Washington, D.C. I am Eliza Gonzalez Manglik Mott, always 1 with 25.